You know, it's always fascinating when you bring us material like this. Today, we're diving into a text you shared, dated April 5th, 2025, called Ashki Morli.
That's right.
And what makes this particularly interesting, like right off the bat, is how it's presented as these direct spiritual teachings, a Morli, where a formless entity, this IOI,
Yeah.
is speaking through someone embodied, a mechanoline. It's almost like getting a message straight from the source, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. It's a bold premise. It kind of bypasses traditional scriptures and offers what's presented as, well, a contemporary direct line to the divine.
Right.
And that immediately invites us to consider, the nature of spiritual authority and how these messages are believed to be transmitted and received.
Exactly. So our mission here in this deep dives is to really kind of unpack the core ideas within this Murli. We want to get a handle on its unique take on who we are, what the divine is, and maybe most importantly, how these teachings might guide us through life's, ups and downs toward some kind of personal growth and a better future.
The text even hints at this potential transformation from the ordinary, pa, to something really elevated. Okay, so let's jump right in. The very first instruction is quite direct. Remain in the remembrance of one Father. What's the significance of that?
Well, this immediately sets up a central focus, the vital importance of maintaining a connection with a single ultimate divine origin. The text clarifies that this Exa, being the one whose praises are sung across, well, so many spiritual paths, is now actively communicating through this Ta.
Right.
And it's crucial to understand that here isn't just another physical body in the usual sense, but rather a specific vehicle chosen to facilitate this divine message. Think of it like a pure channel.
That makes sense. And it draws a contrast with what's generally understood in the the path of devotion. In that tradition, the soul, if Lenki is understood to be subtle, come and laity, but the Murali suggests that a complete understanding of both the individual soul and the Lehuraja, the supreme soul, is maybe lacking there.
That's a key point. Yeah, you could see the Compla Maxicado as laying an initial foundation, recognizing the non-physical aspect of the soul. This teaching then aims to provide a more complete picture, offering a direct relationship with the Supreme Soul, which it identifies quite clearly. It's sort of like moving from understanding that there's a power source to actually like plugging into the power source.
Okay. The text's pretty emphatic that the speaker isn't just some regular spiritual teacher or, a relative. It actually refers to that familiar phrase. That's that Setan. You are my mother and father, saying that the one speaking is the very being whose glory is sung in that line. What does that tell us about the intended impact?
Well, it strongly emphasizes the ultimate authority and origin of the teaching. By claiming to be the universally acknowledged divine parent, it establishes this foundational and deeply personal connection with those receiving the message. It's not just advice, it's presented as direct communication from the source of all being.
And the timing of this communication is also highlighted, isn't it? The Murali stresses that this is a specific time when the Panina has entered Haklo Wu to share this crucial knowledge. It suggests a really special opportunity, like a unique moment. Why emphasize the timing so much?
Yeah, that emphasis on the present time suggests a sense of urgency, maybe, and a unique window of opportunity. It implies that now is a particularly significant period for spiritual awakening and transformation, when divine guidance is being made especially accessible. It's like saying, pay attention now, this is important for what's coming.
Okay, moving on, there's a really interesting warning. Yeah. You must now avoid the disease of name and form. Do not create a negative account. This disease of name and form sounds intriguing. What's that all about?
What's fascinating here is the connection the teaching draws between our attachments to the physical world, to specific people, roles, identities, and our spiritual well-being. The disease of name and form essentially describes becoming so identified with these temporary aspects of reality that we lose sight of our true spiritual nature. It mentions putti pata siksevet vatra nisip lokara poneta patna becoming attached to bodily being.
Right. And how does getting caught up in names and forms lead to creating the Bohara ko negative account? Can you give us a clearer picture of that?
Think of it like this. When our actions and decisions are primarily driven by attachment and identification with the physical self and our relationships, rather than by our soul's true purpose and connection to the divine, we can accumulate negative karmic imprints. The text gives examples like getting overly involved in personal correspondence or becoming too attached to individuals, suggesting these can lead us down paths that aren't really in alignment with our spiritual growth. It's like accumulating spiritual debt through, well, misdirected focus.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about shifting focus from the external and temporary to the internal, the eternal. Now let's talk about becoming Bhagyu unfortunate. The Buddha says that you as very fortunate children are those who strive to give happiness to everyone through their thoughts, words, and deeds.
That sounds like a pretty high bar to reach. It truly emphasizes the interconnectedness of our spiritual progress and our impact on others, doesn't it? According to this teaching, true fortune isn't really about personal gain, but about cultivating an inner state of being that naturally radiates positivity and contributes to the well-being of everyone around us in, well, every way possible: thoughts, words, actions.
And it also mentions being cool and cool. And composed as a key to building this fortune. What's the significance of being cool?
The quality of cool or coolness suggests a state of inner peace, emotional equilibrium. Imagine someone who isn't easily agitated or thrown off balance by external stuff. This inner resilience and calmness are seen as vital for spiritual growth because they allow us to maintain our connection with the divine, regardless of what's happening around us. It's like having a steady anchor, in the midst of a storm.
I like that analogy. The text then frames our current phase as a student life where we should be filled with immense happiness and not experience sorrow or suffering. That's a really interesting way to look at life's challenges.
It really is. It offers a unique perspective on suffering. As students of this spiritual knowledge, we're meant to be learning and growing, right? And the teaching suggests we have the potential to transcend the typical ups and downs of emotional experience. Experiencing deep sorrow, the ment flowing, might indicate a lack of fully understanding or applying the lessons of this student life, particularly the remembrance of the source of true happiness.
Okay, now we're getting into something that might, raise some eyebrows for those familiar with Hindu scriptures. The Medal-Klati directly addresses the common understanding of the Bhagavad Gita and Lord Krishna. It asserts that the Kalgotai god of the Gita is actually Father Shiva, the giver of the inheritance. Knockdown. That's a significant reinterpretation.
It is a very distinct claim, yeah. This teaching posits that Shiva, not Krishna, is the original supreme divine being who initiated the divine deity religion and is the ultimate bestower of Bhakankan, liberation and liberation in life. This directly challenges a very, very widely held belief within Hinduism.
Wow. And the text makes it clear that only you, children, those following the specific teachings, understand this truth, and that this is a key point to share with others. What's the impact of this kind of exclusive understanding?
Well, it certainly creates a strong sense of identity and purpose within the community of followers. It suggests they possess a unique and essential understanding of the divine that others may not yet have realized, placing a responsibility on them to share this perspective. Think of it as having a key piece of a puzzle that others are missing, maybe.
This understanding, according to the Bishukre, is directly tied to the idea of transforming Sabkatonna from an ordinary human to a divine being. It's through recognizing Shiva as the true god of the Gita that this elevation becomes possible. How does that connection work exactly?
The teaching suggests that correct knowledge is fundamental for spiritual transformation. So by understanding the true identity of the divine source and our relationship with it, in this case, Shiva as the Supreme Father, individuals can align themselves more effectively with that source, thereby unlocking their own divine potential and progressing towards that higher state of being.
The curiously then links the present time to the period of the Mahabharata war, suggesting a time of major upheaval and the end of an old era. It even mentions that what's the significance of this cyclical view of time?
This concept of cyclical time, where major patterns and events recur, is found in various ancient philosophies, actually. The reference to the Mahabharata war serves as a powerful metaphor for a period of intense transition and conflict, leading to the destruction of the old and the establishment of the new. It adds a sense of, cosmic significance to the present moment.
And it connects the idea of the Pandavas going to the mountains with the understanding that destruction is imminent. It paints a rather dramatic picture of what's to come.
Yes, definitely. This imagery of retreat and impending destruction really underscores the urgency within the teaching. It suggests that the current world order is nearing its end, paving the way for a new, more spiritually elevated age. It's a call to prepare, basically, for a significant global shift.
The text then circles back to the Krishna point, stating that the search for Krishna will be fruitless until one learns the truth about Shiva being the Gita's god. It really emphasizes this particular point, doesn't it?
It does. It highlights the centrality of this specific theological understanding within the framework of the Murli. It implies that other spiritual paths that don't recognize Shiva as the supreme deity, particularly in the context of the Gita, will ultimately fall short of providing the highest spiritual realization and liberation.
Let's delve into the concept of Maya illusion. The Murli states that the attack of Maya continues to happen and that no one has yet reached the karmalist stage. It sounds like a constant spiritual battle.
Indeed. In this context, Maya represents the forces of illusion, attachment, and negativity that cloud our perception of reality and keep us bound to the cycle of birth, death, and suffering. The acknowledgement that even those on a spiritual path still experience its influence underscores the persistent nature of this inner struggle. It's like a continuous test, you know?
But the key to navigating this, according to the text, is remembrance of the one Baba. This remembrance is what helps us stay joyful and shed the weight of our past negative actions. It even mentions Kalaniga methods given by the Father for this remembrance. What are some of those methods, do you know?
Well, the text doesn't go into specific techniques in this particular excerpt, but the emphasis on consistent remembrance suggests practices aimed at keeping the one Baba in one's awareness throughout the day. This could involve things like meditation, contemplation on the teachings, maintaining a conscious connection with the divine in all activities. It's about making the divine a constant presence in your inner world.
Okay. And it warns against getting tangled up in names and forms because of a lack of remembrance, which then leads to unhappiness. We heard that word earlier in the context of student life.
Yes, exactly. The recurrence of bhava reinforces the idea that emotional suffering often arises from forgetting our true spiritual identity and becoming too involved in the fleeting illusions of the material world. Consistent remembrance is presented as the antidote, the key to maintaining inner peace and happiness despite external circumstances.
And when we do experience negativity, the Murli describes it as, my Murli describes it as bad way. Maya strikes with its foot or shoe, and the recommended response is to immediately remember the Father. That's a very direct instruction.
It's a vivid analogy, isn't it? It serves as a constant reminder that challenges and negative experiences are often manifestations of Maya's influence. The prescribed immediate response, focusing our thoughts on the divine, is a way to counteract these negative forces and regain our spiritual balance. It's like having an instant spiritual defense mechanism.
Now let's discuss the importance of service in spiritual effort. The Father, according to the text, provides hay, which could mean wealth or spiritual knowledge, for the purpose of 5 donation or sharing with others through things like exhibitions and gatherings. Why is this sharing so important?
This highlights the idea that spiritual knowledge isn't meant to be, like, hoarded, but actively shared with others as a form of selfless service. This act of giving and guiding others is considered an integral part of one's own spiritual development and a way to contribute to the greater good. It's sort of like a cycle of spiritual generosity.
And it stresses the need to explain these teachings with understanding and enthusiasm. It's not enough to just repeat the words, is it?
Exactly right. Effective service requires not only a clear grasp of the principles, but also a genuine passion and conviction that can inspire others to explore these ideas for themselves. This enthusiasm comes from personal experience and a deep-seated faith in the transformative power of the teachings.
The Kail in Kamakan. The sword of yoga or remembrance needs to be sharp for effective service, the text says. That's a powerful image, linking inner practice with outward action.
It really is. The sword of yoga symbolizes the power of focused remembrance to cut through ignorance, doubt, and negativity, both within ourselves and potentially in others. A sharp sword represents a deep and consistent connection with the divine, which is seen as essential for effectively conveying the teachings and helping others overcome their spiritual obstacles.
The ultimate goal, it seems, is to cultivate this remembrance to such a degree that at the very end, only the Father and the inheritance are in our awareness. That sounds like complete spiritual absorption.
It signifies the culmination of the spiritual journey, doesn't it? A state of complete detachment from the material world and an unwavering focus on the divine and the spiritual inheritance of liberation and a higher state of being. It's about reaching a point where our primary identity is purely as a soul connected to the Supreme Soul.
But there's a caution against becoming immature and getting caught in negative karmic accounts due to attachments. It feels like we're coming full circle back to that initial warning about name and form.
Yes, definitely. The idea of spiritual immaturity, or being tyrannorous, likely refers to a lack of consistent remembrance and a continued susceptibility to the attractions and attachments of the physical world. Falling back into negative karmic patterns is seen as a natural consequence of this spiritual immaturity, highlighting the ongoing need for vigilance and effort.
The Murli then reiterates the importance of remembering the Father for constant happiness, contrasting it with the cycle of joy and sorrow that comes from being attached to names and forms. It points to a shift from a body-conscious world to a future, but the pan-conscious world. That's a pretty fundamental shift in perspective.
It is indeed. The current world is characterized largely by a primary identification with the physical body and its temporary experiences, while the future, according to this teaching, will be grounded in the awareness of our eternal spiritual nature as souls. This shift in consciousness is seen as essential for lasting peace and happiness.
And the advice is to let go of Teane, body consciousness, in order to become fist and cool. We heard earlier in relation to building spiritual fortune.
Exactly. The repetition really emphasizes the significance of these qualities. Shedding the illusion of being primarily our physical body is believed to lead to inner peace and a loving, gentle disposition. These are considered essential attributes for spiritual progress and for creating positive relationships within the community.
The Father instructs us to remember him and even keep a record, like a chart, of our remembrance, even though Maya will try to distract us. It sounds like a deliberate and disciplined practice is required.
Absolutely. Consistent remembrance isn't always easy, as the forces of illusion and, just worldly distractions constantly pull at our attention. The act of tracking our remembrance signifies a conscious and intentional effort to cultivate and maintain this vital connection with the divine. It takes discipline.
We're encouraged to strive to become Braku, like oneself, meaning spiritually elevated, and to engage in service with interest. It's about both inner growth and outward contribution, isn't it?
Precisely. Becoming Kasapar signifies recognizing and embodying our inherent spiritual work and potential, aligning ourselves with divine qualities, and engaging in service with genuine interest and enthusiasm not only benefits others, but also further accelerates our own spiritual journey. They work together.
The text also mentions being Kannada Yogi, which means carrying out our worldly responsibilities while still maintaining remembrance. It's about integrating our spiritual life with our everyday actions.
Yes, this is a core principle in many spiritual traditions, the idea that we can live actively in the world, fulfilling our duties and responsibilities without being attached to the outcomes, always keeping our connection with the divine alive in our awareness. It's not about retreating entirely.
Some key principles for spiritual growth are then highlighted, including having the intoxication of knowledge to break free from limitations. That sounds like a state of joyful liberation.
The intoxication of knowledge. It refers to a deep and unwavering faith and understanding of these spiritual truths, which frees us from the bondages of ignorance, doubt, and fear. It's described as a state of being filled with the joy and power that comes from spiritual insight.
But there's also a warning against Elenetta, bitter relationships among spiritual brothers and sisters. That's an interesting choice of words. Bitter to describe discord.
Anaskankanes vividly suggests disharmony, negativity, and a lack of the essential sweetness in interactions within the spiritual community. The teaching clearly emphasizes the importance of love, understanding, and mutual support among fellow seekers on the path, maintaining harmony.
We're also urged to be Makanesa soul conscious and to dedicate literally our bones, but meaning all our efforts to service. That's a strong call for complete dedication.
It is a powerful metaphor, isn't it? Offering one's haircut symbolizes giving our entire being, all our energy and resources, to the pursuit of spiritual growth, selfless service. This level of commitment is seen as essential for making significant spiritual progress and contributing meaningfully to the world, according to the text.
Reducing sleep is also mentioned as a way to dedicate more time to remembrance for spiritual earning and happiness. It's really about prioritizing our spiritual practice.
Yes, This highlights the value placed on remembrance and the willingness to make personal sacrifices, such as limiting sleep, to cultivate that connection with the divine and accumulate spiritual merit or earning. It underscores the idea that spiritual growth requires conscious effort and dedication of our time and energy.
The text concludes by stating that receiving the inheritance from the Father cannot be hindered by worldly obstacles and encourages sharing the message about the impending transformation and the importance of purity for the final stage. It's a really powerful closing statement.
It is, isn't it? Emphasizing the ultimate power and accessibility of the divine inheritance and the urgent need to prepare for these transformative times ahead through dedicated spiritual effort and, importantly, purification of our thoughts and actions.
So for you, the listener, what we've explored in this deep dive into the Murli is, well, a teaching that really centers on consistently remembering the formless divine, understanding Shiva as the true god of the Gita, and detaching from the illusions of the physical world. It emphasizes the crucial role of spiritual effort, selfless service, and cultivating inner peace and joy as the path to a profound personal transformation, moving from the ordinary, gay, to a more divine state of being, unconquer. And this present moment is presented as particularly significant, making this knowledge incredibly relevant for navigating our lives towards a positive future.
What strikes me is the unique synthesis, really, of these specific theological claims and very practical guidance for daily life. This teaching offers a particular understanding of the divine and our relationship with it, but it's coupled with concrete principles for fostering inner peace, acting with compassion, and contributing to a more positive world around us.
Absolutely. And it all circles back to that initial promise of transforming from Atta Kiyati Sat. Now, here's a final thought for you to consider. Ponder the implications of intentionally shifting your primary focus away from the tangible world of names and forms towards the more subtle realm of your own soul and its inherent connection to a supreme soul. How might such a shift in perspective actually influence your daily experiences, your priorities, maybe your long-term aspirations? What would it truly mean for you to live in a state of consistent remembrance? And how might that unlock the immense happiness spoken of in the text? It's definitely something to contemplate.